Cornwall Planning and Zoning Commission to order at 7:02 p.m. For the sake of the public and the audience, I will name the people at the table. Anna Tamel, Chair; Janelle Mullen, Consultant; Bruce Bennett; James Laporta; Phil West; ZEO Karen Nelson; Alternate Michelle Shipp. We will seat, and Bruce is an alternate, we'll seat Michelle for Stephen Sicardi, who's a no call, no show. And we will seat Bruce for our, say it again? Keith Bodwell, also a no call, no show. Christine has let me know that she will be a few minutes late. We are going to begin with, and also Will Evans is a no call, no show. And I'm going to want that in the minutes from now on.
Okay.
Our first business is approval of minutes for the October regular meeting. Karen has attached them to your packets. You want a minute or so to look them over? Remind yourselves. Can I have a motion to approve those?
Actually, we got a correction under pending applications. The continue to November 24th, 2023 should be November 28th.
Oh, thank you. Okay. Any other corrections?
I move that we approve the minutes of the October regular meeting with the correction mentioned.
Do we have a second? Phil West, all in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? No. Under minutes approval, I also want to acknowledge an error in the minutes of September 26th, which was the continued public hearing, and we did approve those minutes, I believe, without noticing that there were two typos in terms of the dates. One was the date of the meeting itself, and the second was that although we had set the date for the continued public hearing correctly as November 28th, in the motion it was set incorrectly as the 24th. So do we need a motion to accept those changes, or are we just sort of all admitting my bad?
No, my bad too.
Since they're accepted minutes, do we have to make it as an amendment?
Well, because they were already approved.
Because they were approved, do we have to amend them?
I think that I'm going to acknowledge it in this set of minutes that we realized that there was a mistake.
That we made a mistake.
Yeah. So
okay.
We know, we follow the tape. It doesn't have to be in the form of a motion.
Okay.
It's just
Okay.
fix it.
Yeah. And
while we're on that topic of discussion too, I couldn't help but just skim through, and there are number 7 of the minutes. There's a few just typographical errors. Devilment should probably be changed.
Those can't be the right set of.
no, it is. They aren't. I corrected that when I.
Okay, because this is in the packet, so
We had several revised versions of the minutes, and the
The devilment's pretty good.
the ones I put into the drive
Yes.
for your review were the correct ones.
Okay.
That was the one I read.
Me too. I was like, I didn't see that. That would have got my attention.
No, I had a lot of fun with that.
I made you laugh.
Okay, so we'll.
Do you want an agenda? It's really than you want.
Okay, so we already had a motion to accept those minutes.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, because you're looking at the wrong ones.
Right. All right.
That was
New applications, see under zoning permits, and that's at the back, under 8, This is for our information only. Next, pending applications.
Oh, no, go back to new applications. Little Gill
Yeah.
on the agenda.
Are we on the agenda you're looking at?
C under zoning permits.
Zoning applications at the top, and then other business, number 2.
Let's just, because I have the wrong piece of paper in front of me, thank you very much. Okay, new applications, Little Guild, would you want to comment on that?
Yes, we did not receive the 14-page set of plans that is incoming, and there's a couple other things, so I'm going to ask no action be taken on it, and we address it in November 28th meeting.
Okay.
Aren't they having to move forward, Karen, because of the weather on that?
Pardon me?
Aren't they, didn't I hear that they need to be able to get approval so that they can move forward with something before
It's-
the weather caught them in?
This application concerns the new building project.
Oh, okay,
Yeah,
not the
new building.
moving over here.
Right.
That's why it's 14 pages.
Okay,
It's a special permit for the site plan, the amended, the new site plan at Shannon Terminal.
Okay, got it.
pending applications, we have special permit 257. Do you have any comments about that? The Ridgeway application.
Yes, I do. I have a hard copy of the plans that I received this morning from Ian Ridgeway, and I have an email copy of the wetlands report from George Mallia. So I am expecting email copies of the plan in the next couple of days. Torrington Area Health, and I think everything that will be ready to be put up on the website prior to the November 28th meeting.
Okay, so the application will be complete by the time of the continued public hearing. Okay,
The only thing that will not be in there is if there's a need for a wetlands permit, and obviously that will. But I do not know what, I have not really read it.
okay,
Yeah.
Can I ask a question?
Yeah, me too.
sure.
Who wants to, is this considered a different request, or is it amended to the current special permit?
It's a revised
It's a
application.
revised app.
Okay, just that.
Bruce?
So are they, why is there a revised application? Did they alter the
Yes, they also the
the site of the barn?
Yeah.
Okay, so that's what they did, they changed the location.
That's what this
We
plan
probably
shows.
shouldn't discuss that until it's,
Pardon?
we probably shouldn't be discussing any of those.
Yeah.
No, we're not going to discuss it any further until we've actually received the application.
The one thing I wanted to bring to everybody's attention, being that there was issues between the correct date, November 24th and November 28th, I put a legal notice, which as we know, legal notice on the website is not the real legal notice, which I have to do tonight before I leave. I put a legal notice up on the website showing that the application is continued Tuesday, November 28th. It's 7 p.m. here, or excuse me, in the Cornwall Town Hall, and it is in person only.
Right.
And
2 weeks.
I wanted to add that this little notice, this notice on the Cornwall website addresses communications, the Planning and Zoning Commission, to be posted on the Land Use website page prior to the public hearing, which I give the link where it must be received by the Land Use Office by mail in my email or written form by Wednesday, November 22nd, 2023, due to holiday closing. All communications received after the deadline will be brought to the upcoming posted meeting. So I will be here on Wednesday before Thanksgiving, which is not my normal day. Anything that comes in up to 12 o'clock will be uploaded and posted on the town website prior to.
Just to clarify for everybody, when you have a continued public hearing, you aren't required to post an official notice in the newspapers, which costs us money every time, quite a lot of money for the town. But Karen felt, and correctly I believe, that because of the confusion about the dates, it was important to do so.
And the clarification that at the meeting when it was continued, it wasn't clear if it was going to be library, town hall,
Correct.
which makes it another
Right.
special
Another
meeting
reason. Yeah.
for
Now?
changing of location.
As soon as possible, would you be comfortable with forwarding the application materials to the commission and to myself as well, just so we can all
Yeah.
have complete information in advance of the
Yeah,
continuance?
that's exactly what as soon as I get it, I will be forwarding.
And I think just for the commission's understanding, a copy of the wetlands report, if it's not already available, just so they understand if the disturbance to the wetlands is less than or greater than based upon the modification to the site plan. Not that it's their purview, but just for that background information.
Yep, I'm going to forward that out as well.
Ideal, great.
Okay?
I have another quick question. It's not a problem for us to tag on the Little Gill special permit on the November 28th meeting, right? It's not like that if we call a special meeting to extend this application, that we can't treat that with other business?
That's a very good question, and
As long as the agenda is posted properly for a special meeting prior, you can,
You can do that.
yeah,
Okay,
because a special meeting could be a catch-all for.
perfect. Just checking.
Janelle?
And not to jump back to that Little Gill application since it was previously in the agenda, but just thinking that through, is that going to require another public hearing based on the modification that's being proposed? Will a public hearing be triggered?
So we're going to have another public hearing at the same time as we have the Ridgeway public hearing? Is that what we're saying now?
No, at the November 28th meeting, it could be set for public.
Okay, that's right.
hearings.
We'll receive the application, review it, be sure it's complete, and then set the public
And
hearing.
also, under procedural things, we're going to be talking about site walks, and that's good, we can talk about that.
Right. Okay.
So could we set, there's a public hearing on December 12th, is that right?
Now, but we have to review the application first and make sure it's complete, so let's not jump ahead.
The December 12th meeting has your public hearing for your amendments to the zoning regulations, your ADUs and your building area.
Yeah, well, we can consider all of that. I had wanted Janelle to, and this is a good point in time to do it, to inform us all about the state statute requirements for timing in terms of opening, continuing, and closing a public hearing.
It's in everybody's package,
Okay?
Thank you.
So Janelle's response to me was in the email. It doesn't,
go on to that.
it does not,
Keep them.
the Michael Zitzka book is not clear on this. That's why I asked for her advice. And then I went back and read the actual statute itself, and Janelle is 100% correct.
So it's 65, 35, 65. So just keep that in your head. 65 is going to be upon receipt of an application, the time that the commission needs to open a public hearing. 35 is the time that the public hearing needs to close. And then the rendering of this decision is 65 days within the closing of the public hearing. Bear in mind, all of these deadlines can be thrown off by the granting of an extension. An extension can be requested by the commission and or suggested by the applicant. Applicants are very much able to deny requests for continuances or extensions. However, in the event that an extension is granted, the max extension is 65 days. So 65 days could be extended to the opening of the public hearing and or, not and or
The completion of
the completion of the public hearing or
the
the
decision.
rendering of the decision for the commission. In this event, the applicant granted an extension to keep that public hearing open for the max of that 65 days. So that leaves us with December 21 being that max day to close the public hearing, and then we're bound by that 65 deadline to render a decision. So it's very straightforward in the fact that it's 65, 35, 65, but the extensions could throw that off. And in granting an extension, my suggestion to any and all commissions, get it in writing and get it very specific in writing so that it is an extension to the public hearing, an extension to the decision, and or an extension to the opening of the public hearing, so that it's clear what time frame is being extended.
You can extend any of those?
By 65 days max. And there are in some cases where an applicant will just request an extension of 30 days, knowing that they want just 1 month. So 65 was the option that the applicant took. So now we are in the position for this particular application, they have the max extension in accordance with statute, so the hearing can be open for 100 days total, and that would mean that the hearing cannot remain open past December 21. So just bear that in mind. We're having special meetings for this particular application, but gather as much information, all information that you can, so that you can meet that statutory deadline. Also knowing that when you're making your decision, you will need to render your decision within 65 days. In the case of this particular application, because we're out of extensions. So in other situations, it will vary. Applicants sometimes wish for extensions in different periods of the application process, and the commission can also turn around and request an extension in the event that they wish to hire a third-party engineer to do some review, in the event that there's more information that they would like to gather. They are always also open. You are open to turn around and say, we're keeping this public hearing open, there's some unanswered questions, and you can request to that applicant. But just to get it in writing so that the actual days can be counted is usually really helpful.
So either the applicant or the commission can request the extension, and the applicant can deny the commission's request if they say otherwise.
It's usually not favorable.
And the commission can also deny the applicant's request if they...
No.
Okay, so the applicant always has the right to...
One quick question. There were 3 parts of that. When we have to take it up,
When we set the public hearing.
when we set it,
When we close it, when we render a decision.
Did you say, when you were saying that there can be an extension applied, you said or? It's or not and, right? Or is it and or?
So 65 max total.
On one of those 3 or between them.
And for
65.
So there's 65 additional days somewhere in that process that can be applied, but not multiple 65s.
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah.
I just wanted to get
So,
that.
yeah, no, that's good, because it's confusing.
Yeah.
This applicant asked for a 65-day extension to the public hearing.
Right.
And that's the max extension that can be granted.
So we have to close it by the 21st, and then we have to render a decision within 65 days.
That's correct.
Okay.
Yeah.
Just making sure I got the whole pieces.
And one thing to add on while we're on this topic, as a commission, if an applicant applies, it's expected that that application will be received at the next regularly scheduled meeting. So despite how busy dockets can get, it is not the commission's discretion to say, we're very busy right now, we're going to receive you in December and not in November. They have a right, they paid the fee, they have a right to get on the calendar for your next regularly scheduled meeting, and that's the expectation when they do turn in the application. So making deadlines very clear, it's very helpful for commissions so that applicants are aware of this, because there is that obligation. If you do have an application and a fee that's paid for and you can deem it complete, that it's received officially when you do meet as a commission.
And what is that date before the meeting? before the regular?
I wanted to ask that, I wanted
I
to
think
talk about
that's
that.
later in the agenda.
Yeah,
I
that's
think
under
that's,
procedure.
yeah, I think that's under item
Okay.
6,
Okay.
Yep.
but great segue.
I didn't hear the question, Christine.
When do we determine,
Oh,
When do we determine that the application is received? When does it need to be received by, before that meeting, which we're gonna cover later?
We opened, okay, I'm fine.
need a spreadsheet.
We had,
There's a really
we had
helpful
two,
website.
yeah, we had 2 public hearings, and at the continued public hearing, we received the request for a 65-day extension. So the 65 days began on the day that the continued public hearing was actually not even held.
This is a question, no, it doesn't have to do with the time that it was requested. The 65 days is from,
It's, so the public hearing was supposed to be closed within 35 days. 65 has been added to that 35 days to equal 100 days. So,
Okay, so we have 100 days from September,
The day we set the
the
day
day
the
we
hearing
had our
opened.
first hearing.
the
Yeah.
day we opened the public hearing, right?
Which was the second Tuesday in September.
It was September.
and let me double check that on my time calculator.
Oh, good.
There's a really helpful website
Yeah,
for
that's-
time, because I'm not counting 100 days on my calendar.
Well, that's what I did.
and then you
November
have to count again.
14th. From,
Oh, because it's the October meeting.
And then you're not including your terminus days.
October is when we extended
right.
another 65 days.
Oh,
So,
oh, right, that one, it was really quick, that part. Got it.
This special meeting that we're having on the 28th was 65 days from the start, from when we had the first public hearing. Because I didn't understand all these numbers, when I, at that meeting, set a continued public hearing for November 28th, I had counted from the first public hearing, 65 days. My brain hurts.
yeah, you did fine.
It's okay?
We're okay.
Okay,
Yeah, so it's December 21,
all right.
100
Fine.
days after the hearings opening, which was September 12th.
Okay, outstanding. Thank you. Lots of confusion there. All right. Then we have the pending applications on amendments to the zoning regulations. Everyone has received the comments from the COG. My question is, do we discuss those at the public hearing, or may we discuss them now?
That's a Janelle question. I believe it should be brought up at
She's
the
saying.
public hearing.
I mean, I would
It would
save it all.
So that if we choose to revise what has been posted as being set for the public hearing, we have a chance to do it now.
Yeah, because what I have to file with the town clerk would be the original.
Okay. Well, thinking that we might do that, I brought everybody a copy.
Yeah, I don't want to get into it now, but it doesn't really.
Well, there wasn't an extensive,
Thank you, Hannah.
this is the first time in my experience I've ever had a COG response that's made suggestions.
When the hearing opens, this will be made part of the record.
Yes, of course it will.
Then I will get it, it'll be part of the package that goes up on the website before the hearing.
As well.
Many thanks.
Certainly on the website.
Isn't the Northwest College?
Not Bristol Scott. Rob Phillips is the executive director.
But this says NH.
It's the Northwest Hills Call, but they dropped the W.
Oh, they did?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Too many letters otherwise.
Should have dropped the H.
So,
Yeah.
so they're just saying consistency. Right?
Under the statutes, the amendments, proposed amendments that were made, the copy had to be, is supposed to be forwarded to the COG for comments. Comments come back to you as a commission and they have to be filed with the town clerk. The original document must be filed with the town clerk 10 days prior to the open public hearing for the public to see. Plus,
I personally, I think that the only thing that we need to do is have Janelle go through the document and make
Yeah.
sure that every time the word apartment,
It's already out. It's only says, we did, the whole point of the amendment was so that we're always referring to accessory dwelling units as
as
accessory
ADUs.
dwelling units and not apartments. So the first point has been handled, and it made me question whether the document was read and/or the second sentence.
Oh,
the
you
diff-
mean when you went back to the document, there were no apartment words in the whole
Well,
thing?
the whole purpose of the proposal was to
Right.
get rid of apartment because of our conversation
Right.
around the term apartment. And using accessory dwelling unit to be more consistent with the statute.
Could I have picked up the wrong copy? I thought I...
I mean, this letter that I'm reading doesn't make any sense based upon the amendment that was proposed, because apartment was flushed out of there completely for the purposes of being very clearly accessory dwelling unit. And then the second sentence about multifamily,
I thought we covered that too.
this is nothing to do with multifamily, and that's a whole other definition and section.
I wonder if they got our current regs.
I was,
Wait.
This,
I thought I
Resonate.
picked this up.
Well,
in
it
the
says,
final-
it does say an accessory
Oh,
apartment.
wait, it could, Janelle,
It says apartment,
You're thinking you sent him the wrong thing?
accessory
I want
apartment.
the last one that I thought I had.
Well,
If
I
that's...
think that's what we're
Since-
referring to, no?
you didn't include copies of that.
And then here, this accessory apartments in those zones. I'm pretty sure it does say accessory apartments in the suggested language. This is what yeah, definitely does.
What document are you looking at?
Yeah.
What you
I
sent
mean,
to all of us.
Public hearing 10, 23. It would be helpful just to be included on whatever was sent out to Rob, because
Okay,
this
I'll send-
isn't,
I'll
yeah,
send
this
it down.
isn't resignating
Okay,
as far as.
So we're gonna stop the discussion. Karen is going to send Janelle the version of the ADU regulation that was sent
I'll
to
send the
the
email.
Northwest Hills COG, and we can finalize this at the public hearing.
Go up to here. Let's see what it says.
There have been, there's a consistent problem with revisions and keeping them in order. We need to work on that.
Well, in my memorandums, I'm very cautious that I'm saying prepared for the commission on
Yeah.
this date, revised to on this date,
Right.
so that anyone can pull a copy and see if it's iteration 1, iteration 2,
Yeah,
or
yeah.
iteration 3.
Why don't you and I talk about, and it could be I'm missing something in my emails, because I know it was the absolute last one,
Okay,
so.
all right, well, let's not beat that dead horse.
Yeah, it just, in reading the overall memorandum, it was a little confusing, the referral response.
Right. The, what we're running into this evening is a lot of the nitty-gritty that is required by our state statute, such as that the Regional Planning Council must receive a copy of any amendment, proposed amendment to the zoning regulations. And they have 35 days to respond. Because that number is 35 and not 30, we had to wait 2 months to set our regulatory amendment to public hearing. So that's why we set it for December. So I'm just going to use every opportunity to educate everybody about all of these little details. We are down to amendments, the definitions of buildable area. There's nothing more to say about that. We've already reviewed it and set it for public hearing, except Christine just put her hand up.
So of course, I shouldn't really get involved because I wasn't for the, I wasn't in this meeting, but are you saying that if you have this is for my own clarification, if you have an irregular lot, I thought setbacks were what defined where you could build a building. That's the whole point
Not
of
only
it.
Not all of
setbacks, wetland
Like-
soils, utilities,
Yeah, but like
easements,
why
right of
can't,
ways.
like if you have an irregular, if you have a lot with a nice little corner on it, but you can't get a rectangular buildable area on that corner, are you saying you can't build in that corner?
Yes.
And that's why redefining buildable area is one of the topics on the list of potential amendments. Because
So each
of
lot
that problem.
has to have a buildable area,
Yeah.
and all the buildings, according to our old regs and hopefully our new regs, have to be located within that buildable area.
And the buildable area is
It's
defined.
defined, it basically has some dimensions to it, as well as it's got to be, not have wetland soils, and it has to have slopes less than 25%,
Mhm.
according to it. So it's, which is still pretty steep, actually. It's not like it's got to be flat. 25% is pretty great, but basically it's relatively, it's buildable, we're
And
saying.
it has to be a rectangle.
Well, I guess
No,
that's
well,
what that's what I'm
rectangle.
struggling with. Let's say
Well-
that's my lot shape. I've got
Yeah, but we're not
setbacks.
discussing this
Yeah.
tonight.
Yeah.
Because we're just informing you what our regs say, and
Okay.
you will recognize that there's maybe a problem, and it will be one of our options when we decide where to head next in terms of regulation amendment
But
discussions.
we're voting.
But it's going to public
No,
hearing.
no, no, it was voted on, if you read the minutes from
Yeah.
the meeting, the verbiage for this amendment is in the minutes of the meeting. It was
Yes,
the
yes.
discussion and the motion to
Well,
set
this is coming up to the
Because
next
there
public
was
hearing.
an omission.
Our old regs had it, all the lots had to have a buildable area, and all the buildings had to be located within the buildable area, within a buildable area. And the new regs didn't have that verbiage. And I said, wait a minute, we better not, because that would be a significant change when we did the rewrite.
But we're adding
No.
No,
accessory
we're not.
structures.
We're putting something,
Yes, we are adding,
To
but
the
we're putting
buildable
it
area.
back to
No.
where it used to be.
We're
All-
changing.
No, we're not changing, no, the old verbiage had exactly what the new verbiage
Okay.
is.
And the same verbiage was
Okay.
an exemption for accessory apartments. I believe it's less than 250 square feet.
250 square feet is the exemption, but in the old regs, it's for.
This is it. Okay, we're not
We haven't tweaked it.
changing.
It's for consistency's sake.
Okay,
Right.
that's, I'm
because
fine with that.
It's for the nature of being explicit
Yes.
and for consistency.
I thought that we were changing something,
No,
and I'm
no.
so confused why we
We're actually going back to what
Yes.
was.
Okay.
Yeah.
I just wanted to make sure we were back to the level playing field before we then go forward and tweak it.
Right.
If the commission so decides.
Okay.
But,
okay, so,
Thank you, sorry about that.
Well put, James.
good, very well done. Okay, phew, this can be a long one. Staff report, Karen, you have anything?
Things seem to be moving forward on many fronts. I'm going to be very honest, the storms that we had in the month of July has caused a lot more commotion on especially wetlands fronts, but also an acknowledgement that we have to be much more careful on stormwater management and on site design for
Slopes.
slopes and
area.
things like that, and build, that too. And segueing into that, there is no current enforcement actions under planning and zoning. There is one that is on the wetlands agenda, and when it goes I'm in the process of moving forward on some legal action because it does have some ramifications in terms of planning and zoning, because it's a residential lot.
Okay.
Yeah,
What address is that?
Frederick Drive. It's only on the wetlands, Jen. It's a notice of violation, but it is about the residential, about what is constructed on a residential lot and how it's constructed in terms of residential.
Okay, thank you. Correspondence and communications, just a question for Karen. Should you not have listed the West Hills COG letter there?
No, because that goes directly to the application.
Okay.
Permit, yeah.
Okay. Other business proper, we have approval of meeting dates. This is done once a year. It's required by the state statute. And it is required that it be consistent for the sake of the public. There's somewhere in your package, there's a list. It continues to be the second Tuesday of every month.
There is one date missing, it's your planning meeting, and you always have a conversation whether it's January, February, or whatever.
Right.
With your annual planning meeting. So if you can pick that date, I will put it on here.
All right.
Usually end up changing it.
Well, I'm going to propose that the annual planning meeting be 2 weeks after our regular meeting on the 23rd of January. Give us more time to get ready.
Do you think we will be hybrid by then?
We're going to be discussing that shortly.
What, January 23rd?
January 23rd. So we do need a motion to accept these dates,
Are we adding that meeting?
and we'll add that meeting with the addition of the planning meeting, the annual planning meeting.
Move to accept these dates, including the January 23rd.
Thank you. Moved by Phil, seconded by James. All in favor? Aye. Okay, I have a comment about this. You've all agreed to that schedule. And we're all grown-ups now. There's an expectation that you will attend the meetings. If you can't attend, there's an expectation that you will let Karen and me know. I am not going to send out any more emails begging to know who's coming, trying to find out if we will have a quorum. If you can't show your fellow commissioners the respect they deserve to know whether you're going to be here or not, if we're all sitting here and we can't form a quorum because you haven't responded, it'll be on you. I'm looking at James, but no, I'm looking out at the table. It's just that you're so easy to look at. You're just sitting in the right
You're
spot.
actually talking to the regular.
Yeah.
The regular.
So
We get it.
I'm not going to be sending any emails around saying, "Are you coming?
So do
Please
you
let
want
me
us to
know."
notify you whether we are or not coming?
When you receive the agenda for the meeting, that's the time to look at your calendar and respond whether you're coming or
You
not.
don't have to look at the calendar.
You have to
have
look
all
at-
the
yeah,
dates right
there
It should
there.
already be on your calendar.
You already have all the dates.
Well, yeah. But the agenda is your reminder.
That's fine.
Yeah, it is kind of nice, I think, for me, if we reply to all, because it reminds everybody, now we all know who's on the page, and if
We can all
somebody's
call that
not
person
coming,
out.
then we know, hey, we better make the extra effort if we're, a quorum is in jeopardy.
That's a very good suggestion.
But that's just my.
I will let you know if I'm not showing up.
That's all I
Yes.
want to know.
Yeah.
If you're
That's
not
what
going to
happens in
show
the
up,
past.
you don't have to tell me if you're coming. But if you can't come, we need to be informed. Okay?
Then inaction is also action.
Right, that's a good quote. Yeah. I did consider instituting a $50 fine like doctor's offices do. No show, no call. You get a bill for $50.
Yeah, but the insurance company pays for that.
All right, I'm glad, so I've had my little tantrum about this. We shall move on.
I was gonna say yes, Mom.
Procedural discussions. I actually have quite a few. Since the question was asked, we'll start with the fact that the library now finally has everything set up for hybrid meetings. They have changed their minds about only allowing Margaret to run the equipment. Margaret has agreed that Phil can contact her and be our guy.
All right.
However, there are many options for how we will continue to run our meetings through the winter. And one of them is to just go to pure Zoom. Coming out here tonight in the dark and the cold made me a lot less enthusiastic about seeing your smiling faces.
But it's so nice and warm here.
Well, so, you know, this is a decision for us to make as a group. So we have the option of going hybrid for the winter, and I won't be here because I'll be on the Zoom end of the hybrid. And you will be in Puerto Rico.
I'll be here if we're doing hybrid.
Yeah.
Apparently.
Yes, you'll be here alone.
Won't you be curling?
No, men's league is only Mondays this year.
Oh,
so
thank
I don't
goodness.
have men's league game on Tuesdays.
So we have that option, the hybrid option, we have the purely in-personal option, and we have the Zoom option. And I would propose that we make this decision only until the weather gets better, and then then we take a look at the decision again.
So what you're asking is whether we want hybrid during the winter?
Yes.
Why would we
Or
have
just
hybrid all
Zoom.
the time? I mean, so if I
Well,
were
come
away,
spring, okay,
so if I were away, like I was in August,
yeah.
I was capable of looking in on the zoning thing, but, you know, it wasn't set up for hybrid. So it wasn't set up for Zoom, it was an in-house meeting. So I couldn't participate in the meeting when I was
Right.
away. Why wouldn't we always
True,
have it?
okay, yes, so if we want to get together and enjoy our camaraderie during the better weather, yes, that would all be hybrid, I agree with you.
Well, no, that would not be, it would be hybrid too.
Yeah, so that when people are on vacation,
Right, exactly.
Yes.
they can,
And I saw the hybrid with the discussion with the first selectman and before the election, and it was pretty good, except there were people outside the view.
yeah.
So I think in order to do it properly, we need to know what the parameters.
Oh, that's interesting.
Smart.
Bill?
Yeah.
I would,
Thomas,
so two things. One, my initial thought is that I much prefer in person, personally. Secondly, I would love us, before we make a final decision on the hybrid, to do at least one or two, so we know how it goes
Sure.
and what
Makes
the difficulties or non-difficulties are, what the challenges or advantages of it, before we commit 100% to doing everything hybrid or whatever.
That makes
Just to
sense.
find out what the challenges are, so we know what the playing field is.
Anybody have any other comments about it? Preferences? Can you
Well-
express your preferences?
I was just going to point out that the Cornwall, what we just approved for our meeting dates says in the Cornwall Library, except as noted, in person and/or Zoom hybrid,
Yeah.
so that we have as many options as we
Okay.
possibly can.
Thank goodness you
If we
thought
had-
that ahead of time.
If there was a bad spell in the winter, we would go say, strictly Zoom, just post it strictly for Zoom. You could post it for both.
You're suggesting we could make a meeting-by-meeting determination?
Yeah, because your meeting schedule allows you the option to have options.
Okay.
That's not why it was
That's an
done.
interesting comment, and I see Michelle is nodding her head. Any other thoughts?
And I see Janelle going, yeah, because, so it could be in person, it could be by Zoom, it could be both.
I mean, as long as we are able, you know, we always have the option to be able to attend, because I find even if I miss one meeting, you know, it takes me 2 meetings to catch up.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
And I don't know how people that meet 2 meetings in a row can ever catch up. I don't know how that can
Yeah.
happen, so.
Although, you know, when we have Zoom meetings, which, you know, we've been having throughout for a long time before
Yeah.
we came back here, you were able to attend by Zoom.
Oh, yes, oh, yeah. Until that was no longer an option,
Right,
right?
right. It gives us a little more flexibility. I think I would rather be in person if I'm in
Right,
town.
right.
But on the off chance that I'm somewhere else,
Right,
I'd like
right.
to be able to attend.
Okay.
Yeah, because I don't always have nuts at home. Like Zoom.
Right?
And it's not as warm. Yeah.
Okay, so I think we've narrowed it down to saying we want to always have hybrid meetings.
Yeah.
I would think having a hybrid meeting, you know, I mean, if the weather was bad and we don't want to come down and
Yeah,
whatever, then you just switch to plain Zoom. But
right.
having it open as hybrid gives you a lot of options.
Yeah.
And like Bruce was saying, like, I know I'm going to be gone in January, so knowing that I can Zoom into those meetings and things like that will be helpful. I do appreciate Richard's videos, because when you miss a meeting, you can't always watch the meeting and get
Yes.
caught up. So.
And I was asking Richard if the library posts the recordings, and he doesn't know. So that's one of the things that we'd like you to, when you meet with Margaret to get your training, to find out what you have to do to post the videos.
Oh.
Yeah, okay, I do have some.
And we're going to-
Which I'll go into.
Yeah, and my big question too is, very typically, in a hybrid meeting, there's a screen so that everyone can see what's on the screen to viewers at home. So I'm hoping we have that capability here in town.
I
There's,
can kind of speak to that. When they did the trial selectmen meeting,
yeah,
I came with Jen for that meeting. They had the selectmen sitting over here with the camera, that camera shooting on them, so that they could all see the screen that way.
I wondered about that.
The only thing that I would say that I thought was really awkward is there wasn't a box for the people that were in the room. So, like, if you held something up, you couldn't see if anybody could see it. Like, there was no in the room box. You know, like when you do Zoom, you have your own box and you can see yourself.
yeah,
That particular one wasn't set up, there was no selectmen box.
So that's,
But there are cameras at both sides,
right,
so,
so, okay.
does that make sense?
Yeah, that, I mean, it's.
I don't know if that's just a display.
doable If you just have, I don't get into it too much, but if there's an account that's running the Zoom meeting and somebody else, like me or Janelle or somebody else has a laptop that's also in the Zoom
Logs
meeting,
in,
they can bring that up and you can make that the presenter,
yeah,
right?
I
So
think
you
so,
could have a second person that has access to that also.
yeah.
Because, and screen sharing, sometimes we need.
Yeah.
They
Well,
were,
that's exactly what we're talking about,
Yeah.
is sharing the screen so that it can be seen, but,
they did, Jane Hall was here screen sharing, and so she was able to screen share so she could put stuff up.
right, it would just have to be a different account than the one that's
Okay.
showing
Bottom line is, we're lucky to have Phil amongst
Yeah.
us, and we're gonna dump it all on him to learn how to do it right,
Okay,
okay?
yep.
I like Phil's idea too, that let's give it a shot and see how it goes.
And then we can
If
talk
need to
some
tweak
more.
it, we can
Yeah.
discuss it some more. maybe.
Okay,
Yeah.
And I do
Very good.
in person myself.
so that's that question off. Now, it's under procedural discussions. Have a copy of the proposal I sent around for a new standard operating procedure, which I'd like to review the old way. You know, COVID started a long time ago. We've all gotten used to certain, there you go. So before COVID, when the governor said, since the public, we don't want the public coming in person into the town office or into a meeting, we're going to have a whole new regimen where everything gets done, it is on Zoom. And the website is the place, the town website is where the notices go. that executive order has been repealed, so we no longer have to follow those procedures that we followed all along. If we go back to the old way, if we look at number 1, the notices of the public hearings is still something that we have to do at all times. And Karen, you have a public notice registry, which is mentioned in number 1 here, correct?
For some specific things, and I do, but it hasn't been really triggered by anything.
Right. Well, I remember in the past that you had a group of people that you would email the agendas to, the notices of the meetings.
I have not done that for a very long time.
No, you haven't done it for years, and you know, okay, we'll just...
There's one in particular that is a specific kind of application. I was doing it out of courtesy because the notice to the public is very specific kinds of applications, so it's not for every application.
Okay, well, but there is always that option. There's been that option in the statute. And then in the old days, the agendas must be available for public viewing in either the town's clerk's office or the ZEO's office at least 24 hours prior to each meeting. That's sort of like the dark ages nowadays, isn't it? And then we've got the annual schedule of meetings that have to be posted, and special meetings are noticed at least 24 hours in advance in the town clerk's office. Which,
Nobody would know.
yeah, how's anybody going to know that? And then moving on to another kind of registry where people can receive notices of meetings. And then the rules about our votes, who votes for what has to be noted and made available to the public. So that's what we could go back to if we choose to. But I think our public has come to expect a lot more openness from us. And I think I'm proposing that we consider just continuing doing what we've been doing, which is posting agendas, minutes, applications for special permits, and correspondence on the Cornwall CT website.
I have a quick question. Your 7 points here, those are required by statutes that we do that stuff?
Yep.
So that's
We
the
have to
must.
do that.
So we have to do this anyway.
Well, Karen has to do everything that
That's
the
okay.
statute requires.
But we add the
Now-
digital
well,
notice.
Now we're adding all the digital notifications, which, you know, it can be burdensome. I know when I was pretending to be her when she was on vacation, it was sort of driving me crazy, trying to keep track of all the correspondence that had come in and making sure that it got up on the website. And there were certainly members of the public who were marching in and demanding to see their letters on the website. So, you know, we have kind of created a monster now. And, but it's democracy, you know? It's openness, it's sharing information, and
So I was going to ask, that's Karen who puts that on the website?
Janelle?
I'd love to jump in just to add that since the governor's executive orders were pulled back after the COVID pandemic, there was a public act that came forward that allowed for electronic meeting. So before COVID, it was never enabled by statute. So the follow-up to that is 21.2, I believe, that allows towns after April of 2022 to continue having these meetings. And I believe I need to do this research for a hybrid meeting. The 48-hour requirement is involved with the posting of an agenda so that one can make themselves, that needs to be available so that one that can go on by means of computer can do so. And I just tried to pull up the statute, so let's
So
see.
Maybe you could send us an email after you
Yes.
figured it all out.
Not less than 48 hours before any public agency conducts a regular meeting by means of electronic equipment, such agency shall provide direct notification in writing or by electronic transmission, blah, 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 post a notice. I will review this because I do know there was a public act following the end of the executive orders. When the executive orders expired, there was something that allowed for electronic meetings and hybrid meetings to continue, and I do believe it's a 48-hour requirement for the posting of hybrid meeting agendas.
As opposed to 24?
Correct.
Okay.
It won't change the in-person, but there's also a caveat that if the town is only meeting by means of electronic equipment, should anyone request to have electronic equipment provided to them by the town, and this is going with the notion of fair and public meetings, that the town would provide that for them. So something to bear in mind, if you do go solely electronic, that you are also ensuring that any member of the public who might not have access to a computer and or internet at home would still be given fair and equal right to attend the meeting. So just keep that in mind. That's a caveat of freedom of information.
It speaks to hybrid, doesn't it?
Yes, that does speak to hybrid.
Yeah.
Fascinating. So many facets for this concept of freedom of information.
So then I have a question, in that all 1 through 7 is back on the table and we're just adding the proposal. Does that mean number 7, we need to have some procedural changes of writing our votes and making them accessible? Is that a new thing that's gonna have to come
No,
back?
that's Karen's job.
Okay.
The votes of each member, if it's unanimous approval.
Right.
It's.
That's,
and it-
Which is what we
when
almost
they say
always
written,
have.
it's just written in the minutes, not that we all have to write it on a slip of paper.
No.
Well, because it says, it's set forth in writing, each member of the agency
That's
must set forth
If
in
we
writing.
have
That's
a,
minutes.
if we have
I
a
just wanna make
split
sure.
vote, if we have a split vote, then maybe.
The minutes, the motions
Okay.
of a meeting are supposed to be done within 48 hours. The complete minutes don't have to be done.
So if there was a vote and one person voted no, you would have to say
Yes.
that X person said no, the rest of the commission said yes.
Right, and
Okay.
the
Or
town
somebody
clerk,
abstains,
the
yes.
town clerk would have to have that in writing for anybody in the public who wanted to come in and see. I bet if we asked the town clerks how many years it's been since anyone took
Asked,
advantage. Right.
So is that then procedure for all commissions meetings? So all commissions taking minutes should be designating that information in it? It's not, this is not just pertaining to planning and zoning?
Minutes for whether it be wetlands or
We do
ZBA,
things every day.
P&Z, building committees, and I've done all of them. You have to be very clear who is there. If somebody leaves, that,
Right.
you know, they leave before a vote gets taken, that, well, I didn't vote for that, I wasn't there because it says
That's
I
why
left
the
5 minutes
secretary,
before.
in the absence of the CEO, is asked to keep track of the motions, remember?
And when somebody comes to a meeting late and does not take part and says, well, I didn't vote for that because I wasn't there, that's why I always flag when somebody comes in, so
Right.
that person is not
That's
part.
standard.
Yeah.
Okay, so I think we have kind of a consensus that we're going to go ahead and be fair and open and post everything on the website.
Do you need a motion?
Ideally 48 hours ahead of time.
The one thing that I think needs a little bit of clarification is the deadline for formal communication that's received by the commission, when and if that's getting up on the website prior to public hearings. I do know with the recent public hearings, it became a bit of a crunch time, and there was the need to reconcile who had submitted these advanced correspondence in writing, which ones got up online, which ones didn't. So to get rid of any confusion, a very clear deadline might be really helpful.
I
for
think
the
we
public.
established that last
It's on the
time,
bottom of the agenda.
at our last meeting.
I'm just reiterating that for the record because we're having this discussion.
Right,
I'm
and
aware.
there's something else to consider about that deadline that we decided on last
But I
time.
think the more often that it can be put out
Right.
to the public, the better,
Right.
just to manage expectations.
The deadline for receiving correspondence is the Thursday before our next meeting.
Thursday by noon.
But by noon, but we need to add an addendum. If Thursday is a holiday, the deadline is the Tuesday at the end of Karen's business day, which is noon, correct? Noon, yes. So,
Can't we just say that by noon of the,
1 week before.
Would be the Thursday.
I think the more specific we are, the better.
Well, that's.
For example,
Thursdays.
for example, Thanksgiving is coming up.
That's why.
There may be correspondence. I would like this standard operating procedure to be voted on now, tonight, so it gets in the minutes. What are you
That's
looking
why the
at?
legal notice that I put up on.
Yes, you
informal
included
legal
it.
notice says by Wednesday, November 26th, due to holiday closing.
Right, right.
It's
The
clear
statute
on
makes
it,
it,
because this is a special meeting. A special meeting doesn't necessarily have to be on Tuesday. You could have a special meeting on Thursday.
sure, yeah.
Ah,
But we're unlikely to, because,
or Sunday?
okay, so I will propose a motion that we will have a standard operating procedure, number 2, that continues the posting of notices, agendas, minutes, and correspondence on the cornwallct.org website. And that we will have a deadline for receiving both correspondence of the Thursday at noon, the day before the meeting, or Tuesday at noon if the Thursday is a holiday. I also want us to talk about when we as a commission, how much time do we think we need to receive an application, to look at it before it is presented
To public hearing.
to us at a meeting to see if
opened.
to open it, to review the application. If Karen can get it out to us on a Thursday, is that enough
No.
time?
Absolutely not.
Yep.
Don't forget, Christine says no.
4 days. 4 days
4 days.
to review anything?
What
What if it's not really?
It's a
What if
site
it's
plan.
a site plan application? I don't know, most zoning, I always submit like 2 weeks beforehand. When I have to submit at other
Well,
times.
Karen's gonna do it probably by noon, so you got half of Thursday, all
Yeah.
of Friday, all of
Guys, I
Saturday,
take long
all of
weekends
Sunday.
all the time,
You got
And
Monday.
Monday. And
and
Monday.
Monday. I
Friday
think
and
4
Monday.
days is unreasonable. I would like a week, please.
Okay, anybody have any other opinions?
It's not making Karen's life harder, it's making the applicant's life harder. They've got to get it in.
Right.
Yeah, but
What's wetlands do? Is that still a week?
wetlands, the statutes say that you can come in and put an application on the desk the day before the meeting and it must be accepted.
But that's the same thing with P&Z. If they pay the fee and it's a complete application, we are obligated.
To accept it.
To accept it.
Yeah, it
Obligated to
isn't
accept.
because if you can't have a hissy fit and say, well,
Okay.
you know, I
But
want
accept
to-
is not the same as setting,
Correct.
setting
Well,
for
I
a
mean,
public
that's
hearing
right.
is a different kettle of fish.
Maybe Karen could have gotten one today and she could have brought it with her and made copies for us, we can review it in the meeting too.
No,
Yeah,
I
it
would
just
think.
take longer.
Just because you accept it
It
doesn't mean a
doesn't mean it's not
decision is
yeah.
made. So we could say, okay, we got this application, but we're going to continue it on to the next month's meeting where we have time to review it and figure it out, or you have to make the decision that night.
No, I can't think of one time when you're obligated to make a
Well, do
decision.
you even have to make a decision the next meeting? Don't you have the 45 days to make a decision or?
Well, that's a
It would
special.
be 65.
Let's back off
65
that.
days.
If there were to be a hearing.
So,
What we have to do, if we receive an application, we have to determine if it's complete. That's all.
and then they usually
Doesn't
set
it
for the next
contain
month's.
all of the elements that are required for consideration? And if it's just a zoning permit, we're not going to see that.
No.
The only ones we're going to receive are special permits or site plan applications. So surely, in a matter of 4 days, we can determine if all the elements are included.
Well, likely Karen will have told us if all the parts are there to
Well,
start with.
but
Often.
it is up to
Often.
You
us.
are the decision
I mean,
maker of the
often,
commission.
if all the pieces are there, I mean,
And you could have an application that you thought was totally complete, and in the public hearing, find out that there's information lacking that could cause the application to be denied because there wasn't something that, applications have been accepted and found to have defects.
Right, but then we also have the option to continue a hearing and have the defect fixed. So I think I'm hearing that we have to continue with the Thursday deadline for receipt of applications as well as correspondence.
I'm confused, sorry, about because from a statutory standpoint, it sounds like we don't have the option if somebody comes in on Saturday or even Tuesday morning and says, here's my application and here's my fee, money, then we're obligated to at least
Address it.
that meeting.
Receive it.
Receive it. Receive it.
Receive
So-
it, AKA deem complete and/or set public hearing.
And so
Suppose we receive it and then deem it incomplete.
You can. I wouldn't even accept it. I would just say,
Right.
this is
Yeah.
based
This
on
is
our review,
incomplete.
this
Okay.
is incomplete.
Just
So-
Because
So we don't
accepting
really
is
need
deeming
to say
complete.
that we need to have the stuff by Thursday, because statutory wise, they can show up Tuesday morning and say, here it is. And we're still obligated to look at it.
But they
You can
can't,
prescribe a best practices in
Sure.
the manner in which the commission prefers to receive information so that applicants know this commission's on their toes, they love a full week of review. It's really in their best interest to give everyone that time if possible. I mean, it can just be the best practice of the commission.
yeah, but that's different than a policy.
Like, we're not allowed to set a policy saying that we must have, 4 days to review it.
Not when there's statutory obligations behind it. With other policies, like with posting of communication on the website, there's no legal obligation to even post those on the website. You can develop standards and standards operating procedures, which helps for,
the thing is, if we
Smooth
had a
running.
full-time CEO, theoretically, an applicant could come in on a Monday afternoon with an application, pay their fee, and then it would have to be added to the agenda. Is that correct?
I've never known any zoning.
Well, how would that work? Because if the agenda has to be posted 48 hours ahead of time.
Yeah.
That was a little weird.
with 2/3 vote of the commission, you can add any item to an agenda of a regular
At the
meeting. If it's a special meeting, no can do,
Right.
24 hours, the agenda's set in stone.
Okay.
If there's,
So if Karen got an application this morning, and she brought it over here, we could add it, we could vote with 2/3 of us, could vote to add it to the agenda, so we can deem it complete or
And
not.
receive it.
But
What's the difference?
but are we
don't get the
required
vote.
to?
That's strange.
What?
It just seems, in a couple wetlands permits that I had to do for work, I was always confused because I'm thinking, okay, the meeting's on such and such a date, I get the application in a week ahead of time, I go to the meeting, and they look at the application and they say, looks good, we'll set it for next month's meeting, and I'm like, oh, yeah, it's a whole other month, so then the month
Well-
goes by, and then they vote on it, and then you have your approval.
But there's a difference between wetlands applications. That's a whole different piece in that if the commission accepts a wetlands application, there's a 15-day appeal period that someone can bring a petition in and take
Yeah.
it to
Let's not
public
get bogged
hearing.
down in
Yeah, let's not
wetland
get bogged down in
procedures. Let's talk
wetlands.
about planning and zoning.
Well, and we're really,
Procedures.
And we're really talking about special permit applications anyway.
Correct.
Commission applications, you do receive site plan applications in a
Okay.
rare occurrence
Right.
as a commission action.
Site plan or special permit applications,
Yeah.
right? They're the ones that are gonna come to us that we're gonna have to do something about.
So I had proposed a motion.
So reading from our lovely book by Mr. Ziska, one can find on page 87, he does get into types of applications and their receipt. I'm just trying to skim so I only read what's pertinent. So I hope I'm choosing the right section. Applications for various types of development or other regulated activities may also become before an agency. A zoning commission may be presented with applications for zoning permits, site plan approvals, special permits, or special exceptions, or approval of the location of gasoline stations or certain public service company facilities, blah, blah, blah. Let me skim this and get you the relevant section, but there is a nice blurb about receiving an application.
And previously, we've had no policy on this, or it's been kind of loosey-goosey.
Right.
Okay.
Because there's a statute.
Yeah.
Well, tonight we're talking about that we could have no longer participated in the Cornwall CT website with our various postings. But we've decided we want to move ahead
Keep doing that.
and keep doing that.
Wise decision.
But we haven't voted on that part yet. We're stuck right now on the whole issue of what is the proper procedure for receiving the applications that are presented to the commission, as opposed to being the sole purview of the ZEO.
Were you thinking of how is this going to be, it's not part of our actual regulations?
No, I know. Well, eventually, we're going to get around to revamping our bylaws, which were last done in '83, and I thought that these procedures that we're agreeing to could be part of our bylaws. Or we could just have a file folder on the website with our standard operating procedures. Who's to stop a commission from having such a thing?
I think that might be a good safe bet, and then we're not legally obligated, if it's just a standard operating procedure. Our preferred method is stating that the
Right.
an applicant
Comes sooner.
comes.
Exactly. That in the language of the standard operating procedure, we could talk about it. Our preference is to have more time.
And I think that way we'd be safe to just put it out there,
Yeah,
and then, of course, push comes to shove, we can say, okay, we can accept
Right,
it, but it's going to take,
right.
but we're,
So, there are steps for a special permit. We receive, we deem it complete, and then we sit for a public hearing. In the past, some of those steps were done by Karen. She would make sure that we only got complete applications. But when Karen was away, we received an incomplete application. And I just want to we have to be responsible for this. Karen can't be available 100% of the time, and she can't be 100% perfect in everything she does for us or gives to us. So we have to be her backup. That's,
well, I think that's a good idea, is what you're
So then we
saying.
have to be notified when an application comes in, so that we have time to be able to review it, if we have time, right?
yeah,
So we're not notified now of when applications come in.
yes we are.
We are?
When we receive the agenda, I suppose.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
When we receive the agenda, which we may or may not open, a week before,
Or it may not get to us until.
or it may not even be on there.
So in accordance with Connecticut General Statute, it's section 87D, parentheses C, and it states the following language: the date of receipt of a petition, application, request, or appeal shall be the day of the next regularly scheduled meeting of such commission board or agency immediately following the day of submission to such commission.
Okay?
So it doesn't have to be day of, but it's immediately following the day of submission.
But we can specify that the day of submission must be a week before.
You
They
can't,
can-
you
Why
can't
not?
override statute, you can suggest. It is preferred that
Well,
the commission.
they're not specifying that the day, I mean, day of submission, you could slide it under Karen's door, is it submitted?
It shall be, I take that as, if you,
Shall means must.
8/7, what was it?
87DC.
You said the day before?
So someone could send in an application tomorrow, but we won't receive it until next meeting.
Correct.
Correct.
On the same day of the meeting, it can fall to the next regularly
So if it
scheduled
comes in
meeting.
today, Tuesday, it
That's
could go to the
correct.
next meeting.
Yeah, the
But
next
it
regular
doesn't
It
meeting.
came in yesterday.
It's gotta be.
So it's gonna be the Thursday before anyway, because that's when
Yes.
Karen has office.
That's when
hours,
Karen's in the
right?
office.
Yes.
So it's already gonna be 4 days
Yeah,
ahead of time.
yeah.
So, I mean, that's when she's
We don't
there.
want to be talking about what other towns do because they aren't us. And
Well, I think we should uphold, general standards
We
of
can follow
practice.
those.
throughout the region,
Yeah.
I think so.
I, as an architect, am required to practice in a manner similar to other architects.
Mhm. You're hurting my brain.
I'm not sure what that means.
No, it's just like,
No, I get-
it's like the responsibilities.
I understand
The
it.
responsibilities of maintaining a certain level of professional
Right,
conduct.
but, so you're telling us that other planning and zoning commissions have set different standards for when they will accept an application?
Not the ones I work with, I can tell you that much.
Interesting. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I still like the idea that since Karen's previous day would be Thursday with office hours, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we're kind of, it's
Yeah,
it's muted for
applications
us
have
anyways.
to be submitted during office hours.
You know, they can't just slide them on
Right,
the door the day
right,
before, that
right,
doesn't get there. So I think we're in good shape.
Yeah.
I know, but so
Thank you,
Karen,
Karen.
yeah, they do that. Well, people see your car at the town hall and show up on Saturday, right?
Well,
Like, that's,
I
I don't
think
have
it's
to
totally-
open the door.
But she
Yeah,
doesn't,
that's true, that's true.
she can also say that these are not regular office hours, I can't accept this application today. You'll have to wait
Karen
back.
is
Yeah.
not that person.
I
No,
know.
I'm just saying, but she
But
can.
she is accommodating and kind and
Consistency.
helpful.
But she can.
Well, I would just recommend that she can take the application, but say, unfortunately, we're not going to be able to put this on this month's agenda, but it will be on next month's agenda.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that happens all the
Yeah.
She
time.
can say, you
Yeah.
can hand it to me, I can't officially
Formally
receive
see
it
it.
I
until
I
Tuesday.
usually have a pretty good, after 15 years of doing that, have a pretty good sense of understanding what urgency is and what
Sure.
urgency and when it's not urgent. Yeah.
Okay.
The receipt of an application, a formal application or a petition that's heard by this commission, a site plan, a special permit, that's an action of you as the commission, and the only time that you're taking action is at your meetings.
Right.
So if you think of it that way, no one can be enabled for an application to be received unless you as a body are at a meeting.
Yeah.
If that helps with your thinking.
No,
And if it's a special meeting and an application has been received and it's not on your agenda, you are not obligated because you can't add an item to your meeting. So I would just be aware what is an administrative task of our ZEO versus what is a commission decision, the receipt of applications at this level, the commission board, when you're scrutinizing an application, deciding on an application as this board, you're also deeming it complete together as a board.
Right.
Setting a public hearing as a board, deciding on it as a board.
Okay.
So where the motion had to do with,
You're writing this,
I will send it to you.
thank you. Thank you, Ann.
I can try to type it quick too.
We will institute, this standard operating procedure will supersede the one we voted on last time because it will include what we voted on last time. That we will continue to post notices agendas, minutes, and correspondence on the cornwallct.org website. There will be a deadline for receipt of correspondence and applications of Thursday at noon before the meeting.
Unless it's a holiday. and then
Unless it's a
Wednesday.
holiday, in which case the deadline will be Tuesday at
Tuesday.
noon.
Do you need me to make that motion? Or-
But I think I made it, so I need a second.
Yes.
Oh, okay.
Second.
Thank you, James.
Excellent.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposition? Unanimous. I don't think we've ever had anything but a unanimous decision, ever. Just you wait, she says. All right, oh boy.
All right, motion. Well, it's good you discussed it a lot.
Then,
first.
I wanted to have under procedural discussions, we need to talk a little bit about site walks. Because there are laws about site walks too. And every site walk has to be reported back to the commission. So you need to give us a write-up of the site walk that you had.
Okay.
And I will be contacting Steve to make sure he provides us with a written report. And these have to be made part of the record for the public hearing in a particular application. In this case, it was the Ridgeway application. As a commission, I think it behooves us to do more site walks, especially if it's a very complex application. And so we'll be talking about setting some of those. For example, the Little Guild application is a very complicated site. So we'll probably, before the public hearing, want to jointly make a site walk. These have to be noticed. The public has to be allowed to attend. The owner has to give permission. They are allowed to refuse. At the site walk, nobody may open their mouths, not the public, not the board. You are there to walk around with the map and look at what's what where. Are questions allowed if the applicant is taking us around?
It is for clarification of
Right.
navigational pieces, like
Where's
you're,
this on the map?
yeah.
Right.
You're standing here
Right.
with the map and it's.
Any other discussion, any other talk between any two or any three or any members of the public is construed as ex parte communication and is against the law. So the best thing, I think, is for just all of us to zip it.
Were we invited on the Ridgeway,
No,
didn't
I
have it scheduled.
made it, if you make a solo site visit, it isn't considered a quorum and you don't have to notice it. But if two people go on a site visit, it has to be noticed.
Right.
So,
Does one of those people include Karen?
So I can take,
You can do whatever she
You can
wants.
take two people?
I
Take
try
one
to
person.
stick with one person.
Take one person.
right. So I just wanted, since we've been doing a lot of clarifying of what the law says and what we have to do and what our obligations
Yeah,
are, I just thought I would bring this up too. Yeah, I've noticed in reading the old minutes, I'm now up to 1993, there were lots of site walks. And it sort of, we'll learn a lot, and it behooves us to do them.
And if it's an application as Little Guild is with layers of 3 applicants as part of, because it's also being co-signed by the Cornwall Conservation Trust.
Right.
That there's an engineer and a surveyor because of some of the issues associated with the site. Yeah.
Right.
But it will be very, a Little Guild sidewalk because of issues of floodplain, which is coming up due to the fact that our floodplain maps are vintage 1950. and there are certain issues, and that it's going to be really important for people to realize how difficult some of these, what's going on in West Cornwall, what's going on in areas that are trying to develop, and with old information when it comes to.
Problem. They promised new floodplain maps, by the way, next year for our area. So we'll see.
20 years after everybody else.
The commission has the right, when a public hearing is open, to conduct a sidewalk.
Yeah. You could conduct it before or conduct it in between or whatever. Yeah.
I have a question. How would we determine if we're going to have a commission sidewalk as opposed to just one of us deciding to go and do a sidewalk? In other words, say for instance the little build, and you said maybe that would be an appropriate time. When do we make that decision? And then we should probably let all the commission know.
Yeah,
and make a
exactly.
decision so that
Yeah.
we won't go out individually, because we know that there's going to be a group sidewalk happening for that.
And the other thing is, if you have a site walk where you have an engineer or the applicant's representative, someone's got to do some coordination to make sure that they.
Well, it makes sense to me that when we receive an application and set a public hearing date, that would be a perfect time to decide amongst ourselves if a site walk seems to be necessary or would be helpful.
Okay.
Right?
Yeah.
So we'll consider each application one by one in that regard. Some applications are very straightforward and easy.
And the caveat, and I'm going to be very honest, I have brand new Wetlands Commission members in the past 2 or 3 years, and so I have encouraged them Saturdays, if you want to take a site walk, a one-on-one site walk, so that, the wetlands, the difference between this, that, and the next thing, it's an educational piece to be able to walk with someone, and so that has helped the commission members to understand the dynamics of very subtle issues, and looking at contours and whatever does have a lot to do with wetlands, and it certainly can have a lot to do in zoning as well.
Individual commissioners, I think, are, correct me if I'm wrong, Janelle, they're free to request a site walk of a landowner for your own sake.
So I thought it would have been good to do a site walk for the Ridgeway
Yeah.
application so that we know it was
The
in
only-
proximity to the building to
Right,
homes
and
and stuff.
Well, we still could.
we may very well be doing that.
Yeah.
You can still make an individual sidewalk, you just have to ask the owner, the applicant, and give a written report, or a verbal one at the hearing like I did, which was recorded.
I would encourage the P&Z to potentially just do it as a group for public transparency.
Yep.
And for the poor property owner that's suddenly welcoming 8 individuals on
That's
their
fine.
weekend,
That's
right, to the property.
Thank you for that, Janelle, I agree.
It opens them up to liability when they are inviting people onto their property, so I would just bear that in mind, being as courteous as possible. It is not a right to go onto somebody else's property, and in doing that around their schedule, rather than the schedule of the commission.
So who would arrange for that, Karen?
It's typically the land use agent.
Yeah. We have one more topic under our planning before we adjourn. It's to pick our next regulatory amendment topic. Here's the list.
Can I do a different way?
No,
Even having call pass.
there is water and there were cups.
I'll just do it right
Got some fun stuff on here.
I left
I thought
off,
we were supposed to fill these out and send
well,
them to you.
you sent it to me, but I've changed my idea about how I want to proceed.
You didn't like what I wrote down?
No, I couldn't understand what you wrote down, but that doesn't matter. What I would like us to do is we're going to go around the table, starting with Janelle. And each one of you is going to tell us, what you feel is the most important topic to pick next and why. So we're going to have a little influence amongst ourselves.
I don't want to start. I'm the neutral party here.
Okay,
Okay,
Christine
I'll
can
start.
start.
I think lot sizes are the most important.
What was that?
Lot sizes,
Okay.
I think it would change Cornwall dramatically. So I don't know where I fall on addressing lot sizes, but I do think that we've got 5-acre lots, and those seem to be big lots, and then we have 1-acre lots in some zones, which also seem to be big lots.
And 3 acre.
And 3
And 3-acre. 3-acre is like a pretty normal lot size.
Pretty big for some
It's
places.
pretty big for some places, yeah. Like where's our 2-acre? So.
I would mention that it was a recommendation in the housing section of the Plan of Conservation and Development.
To look at lot
So
sizes.
I'll just mention it.
Yeah.
Okay.
Controversial.
Super controversial. Big, you could.
I think we
yeah.
should wait until James is the chair for that. Bruce, go.
I think we should be dealing with housing, with the duplexes and multifamily housing. I mean, I think that's really important that we take care of that issue as soon as we can.
Thank you. James.
I agree with Bruce.
Okay. Phil.
I read it, hold on. I need to find out where it is, I know which one it was. Where's the one about, expand boundaries of current general business zones or establish new GB zone?
Okay. And why?
I think that I think there's more potential for the areas around. I think we're fairly constrained as far as other towns go of our general business zones. And then I think we need to look at some potential other areas or expanding the current ones, so that whether or not they can happen now or not, that they could happen in the future, and we could have more business in town, allowing more people to work in town as well as live here.
Great. Good explanation. I think we should include our ZEO with her many, many years of experience. She surely has an opinion.
Oh, that's a good question. Why don't you pass and go to Michelle?
Okay, Michelle.
Oh, I'm torn between both that were brought up. I think that,
There's 3.
well, the general business zone, yes. But I was thinking the the duplex multifamily housing. I think that taking some of these big houses and making them house multiple families is super important and could change the face of our housing. But I think lot sizes is equally impactful, because getting smaller lot sizes makes it more affordable for people to be able to do it. So I'm on board for either of those. I think they're both, there's anything that's related to housing, I think should be at the top of our list. Because I also really think that the flexible zoning tool to make denser developments like co-housing and condos, I would love if that could be merged into the duplex family housing, and because they kind of talk about the same, more people living than single family residents. Those are, I like Phil's general business zone expansion, and I think that's important. But right now, given our potties and parking issue, it doesn't matter how big our general business zone is, there's likely to be an ability to get it going. Whereas if we got the housing going, maybe our potties would catch up with us, and then we could expand that building zone. Business zone, rather.
You got something, Karen?
Actually, Plan Development District tool, I think, has been something that's been overlooked, and it can certainly allow consideration of business, commercial uses outside.
What did you call it?
It's the second to last one.
Plan Development
Oh,
District.
okay.
PDDs or whatever they're called. But plan development districts can also include businesses, housing, workforce housing. In Morris, the Winvian is a that's a PDD, and it does address agriculture and restaurants, housing, and housing for employees. So it's a planned development district, but it has a little bit of everything. And I think that there could be those opportunities in a town like Cornwall where you've got big tracts of land that could be multi-use.
Interesting. My vote was going to be with several of the others to deal with duplexes and multifamily housing. Simply because the housing crisis is upon us. It's nationwide. It's dominant in Canadian news as well. So that would be my vote. But and the people who aren't here don't get to vote. So it seems like we have more. We could actually decide to pick 2 topics. So that we know what the next one is, unless you would rather wait and deal with one first and then pick a second.
Well, the housing is a big deal for us to deal with, I think. I don't know that we should mix anything else in or add any more difficulty than that already is into it, would be my opinion.
I agree, and I'm wondering if, we look at duplexes and multifamily housing in conjunction with potentially a planned development district or something like that, so that we're...
So, yeah.
Well, the planned development district
Or
could
the
also
process.
encompass the expanded.
Business.
I saw that. I mean, the planned development district tool also could do the general business zones too, right? 'Cause
Right,
that's-
well, a planned development district could also do the co-housing condos piece, so it would be a multi-purpose. So could we do 2 at once? I mean, could we fold all these topics in together?
So,
Well, I think
Yeah,
housing-
says Janelle? Okay, let's go for it then.
Yeah.
Shall we agree?
My one question for the town, I think the town has taken a lot of initiative around the whole affordable housing,
Mm-hmm.
and I don't know what that group is doing.
Let me report, because I'm on it.
Okay. I think a report from that group would be handy.
I would love to give you that report after we have adjourned.
Wasn't there a big conference?
Yes.
But then it would be.
Did you guys go?
ex parte communication.
Ex parte communication, okay, never mind. The Housing Task Force is very soon going to become a commission. There's going to be a town meeting and an ordinance. I think the point of doing that is mostly for gravitas. The focus of the members has been on the work that the Cornwall Housing Commission is doing. They're in the process of trying to develop a number of parcel lots. And they specifically are the ones who asked me to add modification of setback requirements.
It's not legal.
And when I mentioned that you had said that to them, they all said, no, she's wrong.
Have fun. Find a lawyer.
So here's the issue. They can carve out 1-acre lots out of any size property for affordable housing, which means that in a 5-acre zone, you can have a 1-acre house site. But the regulation that allows this requires them to have the setbacks from the underlying zone. It's R3 or R5. So if it's a 1-acre lot where it's very difficult to find a buildable lot, there have been places where they've run into some difficulty.
Well, there could be a mechanism for an overlay zone that is different than the overarching setback, but it has to be available widely and in a very specific area.
Ah.
It can't just be superfluous, not superfluous, it can't just be miscellaneous lots throughout town.
Right, because
'Cause then
that's
you fall into
favoritism.
spot zoning,
Yeah,
and you fall into the uniformity issue of 8-2.
okay.
You can find a mechanism for it, but you'd have to do it in a legally sound way.
Right.
And you'd have to have some sort of setback, and based on what? Like with a reduction, any sort of variance from the zoning regulation goes to the zoning board of appeals. It's what we're set up for. And in this case, unless we're set up to vary our regulations with an overlay zone that's very specific in a very specific mapped area, I don't
get it.
see how it can be enabled
Okay.
legally.
Okay. To finish what they're doing, actively working on finding land that might be suitable for another Cooganman village that is owned by, is vacant land and that is owned by someone who lives far, far away and is a trustee or an heir, someone who's not necessarily looking to develop their property but might be willing to donate. So there's been a thrust in that direction of finding some lots. There's also been a thrust in the direction of public education. There's now a page on Cornwall CT website that is, like everything else on the website, somewhat difficult to find. There's Jessica Brackman is one of the volunteers, and she's the communications person for the task force. This task force was created as an outcome of the affordable housing plan that Janelle spearheaded helping the town develop.
I didn't, the NHCOG did.
Okay.
I did not spearhead that,
Well,
for the
you didn't
record.
spearhead it, but you were our consultant
Correct.
through the NHCOG, and we developed our 5-year affordable housing plan, which is required by statute. The task force was originally created to follow up on the housing plan, and soon it will be a commission. The commission will, we have an informal agreement from the first selectman that there will be some funding every year. And this commission will be somewhat similar to what other towns have already. That's the update. So far, things are slow to get going, but I always feel that way.
I have a suggestion that maybe you can, well, we'll bring it up right now for the commission to see if that's something you might want to consider, but rather than having a special version of the setbacks for an affordable housing lot, why don't we just look at our setbacks? They're not that different between R5 and R1 zones anyways.
They're double.
Yeah, but they're just the side and rear setbacks. Nothing, it's the same minimum buildable area. It's the
Front too.
Front could,
I mean,
yeah.
it's, yeah.
But
it's
my question I would
like
beg is, are setbacks really the constraint here?
Karen, tell them about that one lot up there on Dark Entry Road.
Then get a variance. For one singular instance, go to the ZBA
Yeah.
and get a variance. That's what the ZBA is there for. We don't need to vary our regulations in one particular instance.
Oh, good for you, you're clear as a bell.
Yeah.
Go to the ZBA.
Pardon me?
There was an interesting conversation today about that, so the problem is starting to be resolved.
Yeah. Okay, all
Because
right,
that's for unique situations.
that's fine. Yep,
I
I
mean-
mean, I will bring this discussion and the recommendations back to the task force.
Yeah, I mean, it seems to me the biggest issue in Cornwall is not the setbacks, it's really the topography.
Absolutely.
We're not gonna change
And we're not changing that.
No, we can't.
So,
And,
And I have to say that the Cornwall Housing Corporation has a unique piece, which it took me many years to understand, is that they are very careful in that when a lot gets when an affordable parcel lot gets transferred, so they have to make sure that the house, the actual structure of the house stays in an affordable range. So the house
right,
can't be big, fancy, there's a lot of
Right,
things.
right, right.
So it's a real,
there are constraints there too,
yeah.
all around.
And And they have the final say on the design of the house.
Sure.
It's hard to do anything affordable these
Oh my
days.
God.
Yeah.
I was gonna say,
Unaffordable housing.
I mean, just to build anything is.
Well, the fact that we don't have municipal sewage and water is a big drawback
It
also.
really is.
Cost of
Yeah, the
materials.
cost of
It's
septic.
just, that was not, I mean, having just built a house, the septic and well was not the big cost issue.
And it was the lumber.
It was,
Everything.
it was everything else besides that. Those were my low dollar items, those two things.
Okay.
I mean, it depends on where you
Well,
are.
It depends on the size of the house.
Depends
So,
on the lot too.
Yeah.
Anyway.
I think we've decided that we're gonna go with looking at ways to, we're gonna address duplexes and multifamily housing, and we're gonna look at planned development district tool, which will have multiple purposes, both for housing and business.
Yeah, and I don't understand that concept totally, so I'd like some more education on the plan district tool when we start talking about that.
Sure, sure. Not tonight, but at some other point, maybe when the rest of the commission is here, I will ask for volunteers for a subcommittee. Perhaps two subcommittees, one on duplexes and multifamily houses and one on the planned development district. So we'll take that at another date. I will accept a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Did you get those who said it? All in favor?
Aye.
This meeting is adjourned at 9:48 PM and the recording should stop.
8:47.
8:40.
It's stopped now.
8:40.